the worn pages of a heart. Once upon a time, there was a woman named Leela. She stood at the edge of a great forest, her heart heavy with uncertainty. In her hands she held a well-worn book, its pages tattered and faded, its cover cracked with age. The book wasn't a novel or a collection of stories. It was her own life, written in the quiet moments of joy, sorrow, love, and loss. Leela had lived many chapters, but now the chapter she found herself in felt like a storm, violent and unyielding. Leela had spent years alongside a man named Ethan, someone she had once believed was her forever companion. Together they had built a life, one where their laughter filled the air and their dreams danced like bright stars in the sky. But somewhere, somehow, the spark had dimmed. The warmth that once radiated between them had grown cold. Their home, once filled with hope and anticipation, now echoed with the silence of unspoken words. They had drifted apart without even knowing it, until, one day, it became undeniable. She had tried everything to fix it. She had tried to love more, give more, be more, hoping that if she gave enough, the cracks in their relationship would heal. She read countless books on relationships, hoping for a key to unlock the door to the love they once shared. The 5 love languages, attached. Men are from Mars. Women are from Venus. She tried to understand him better, to communicate more openly, to meet his needs in ways that would bring them closer. But still, it felt like something was missing, and the more she tried, the more she realized that the connection they had once shared was slipping through her fingers. And Leela stood at the window one evening, staring out at the world, as the golden light of the setting sun bathed the trees in a warm glow. She had always loved the view from this window, the way the light filtered through the branches, casting long shadows on the ground. But tonight, the view felt different. The world outside seemed vast and open, while the room she stood in felt smaller, more confining. She felt like she was standing on the edge of something, unsure whether she should step forward into the unknown or turn back and try to fix what was broken. Her mind raced with questions. Is this what love is supposed to feel like? Should I keep trying? Should I let go? What if I leave and regret it? What if I stay and lose myself? In the quiet of that moment, Leela remembered a passage from a book that had once inspired her, The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. She had read it years ago, during a time when she was seeking peace and purpose in her life. The words had resonated deeply with her then, and they came flooding back to her now. The only way to find peace in life is to let go of the things that no longer serve you and create the space for something better to enter. Leela felt a flicker of understanding. She had been holding on to the past, to a love that had changed, to a version of herself that no longer existed. She had tried to force something back into a shape it no longer fit. She had been afraid of what letting go might mean, of what the future might hold. But the truth, as the book had shown her, was that peace came from release, not resistance. Letting go wasn't a sign of failure, it was a step toward healing. Yet, Leela wasn't ready to fully let go. Not yet. She had been in this relationship for so long, and the thought of walking away seemed too painful, too final. So she did what she had always done. She searched for answers in more books. She found herself reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, a book that had changed her perspective on life, when she first read it. The book had taught her about living in the present moment, about embracing the flow of life and allowing things to unfold naturally. In one passage, Tolly wrote, "When you let go of the past and stop living for the future, you make space for something new, something real, something that can only exist in the present." Lila had lived so much in the past, haunted by memories of better days and afraid of what might come. She had been waiting for the right moment, for the right words, for the perfect time to make a change. But as Tole had taught her, there would never be a perfect moment. The time to change was always now. She could choose to stay stuck in a story that was no longer serving her, or she could choose to live in the perfect and step into the future with courage. The problem was, Lila didn't know how to make that leap. How could she leave behind someone she had loved so deeply, someone she had built a life with? How could she walk away from a love that had once been so beautiful? That night, after Ethan had gone to bed, Lila sat in the living room, her thoughts swirling like leaves caught in a storm. She picked up the book You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, a book that had been sitting on her shelf for months, gathering dust. She remembered how Sincero's words had inspired her to take control of her life when she had first read it. In the book, Sincero wrote, "You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to walk away from something that no longer makes you happy." Lila's heart skipped a beat. She had been living as if she wasn't allowed to change, as if love meant never walking away, even when it was no longer serving her. But she realized now that true love, love for herself, for her future, meant that she had to honor her own growth. It meant that she had to step into her power, even if that meant facing the unknown. The more she thought about it, the clearer it became. Love wasn't supposed to be a sacrifice of self. It wasn't supposed to feel like a constant battle. True love, the kind that nourished her soul, was the kind that inspired growth. And in this relationship, she was no longer growing. She was stagnating, losing herself in the attempt to hold on to something that had already changed. As she sat there, tears brimming in her eyes, Lila finally understood. This wasn't a failure. This wasn't a failure. This was a turning point. Her heart was no longer the place it had once been. It was a place of transformation, a place where she could honor her own needs, her own desires, and her own future. The next morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, Lila sat quietly in the garden, the smell of fresh earth in the air. She realized that, just like a book, relationships have chapters. Some chapters are difficult, some are filled with love and joy, and some are meant to be closed so that new ones can begin. This was a chapter in her life, one that had brought lessons, but one that was now finished. With the clarity she had gained from the books she had read, Lila knew what she had to do. She wasn't running from anything. She was stepping into the future with open arms, ready to write the next chapter of her life, a chapter where she could grow, love, and be free. Like Lila, we all face moments when we are forced to question whether the relationships in our lives are still serving us. Motivational books like The Untethered Soul, The Power of Now, and You Are a Badass remind us that letting go is not a sign of weakness. It is a courageous act of self-love. Change is never easy, But it is in those moments of uncertainty that we have the greatest opportunity to grow. Your next chapter is waiting, and it is filled with the potential for peace, joy, and a future that is yours to create. Don't be afraid to turn the page. Chase your chapters and let them lead you to the life you deserve.